Every day you make hundreds of choices: what to buy, who to trust, when to act. Yet most decisions feel automatic, effortless, almost invisible. But what if the mind you rely on is quietly steering you wrong? Thinking fast and slow begins here, with the hidden forces shaping choices you believe you control. And once you see them, nothing about decision-making feels the same again. This journey comes from Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize-winning psychologist whose work reshaped modern economics. Kahneman didn't just study decisions, he exposed how unreliable the human mind can be, even in experts. His book translates decades of research into simple tools anyone can use to think clearer, judge better, and build stronger habits of reasoning. Kahneman introduces two characters living inside your mind: System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast, emotional, and instinctive. It helps you dodge a falling object or finish a familiar phrase. System 2 is slow, deliberate, and analytical. It solves math problems, plans strategies, and checks your work. The book reveals how these two systems silently battle for control of every choice. The problem is that System 1 is almost always in charge. It jumps to conclusions, fills gaps with guesses, and creates smooth stories from incomplete data. It isn't logical, it's efficient. System 2 could fix these mistakes, but it's lazy, easily tired, and often accepts System 1's shortcuts without question. Most of your bad decisions come from this quiet imbalance. To understand the consequences, imagine picking a restaurant. System 1 reacts to bright signs, quick reviews, and familiar logos. System 2 would compare prices, check menus, and consider long-term goals. Yet most of the time, you choose fast because it feels easy. Kahneman explains that daily life is full of these moments where instinct wins, even when it shouldn't. One of the most influential ideas in the book is the anchoring effect. Anchors are arbitrary numbers that distort your judgment. If you see a jacket labeled $300, now $99, the $300 becomes your mental reference point, even if the real value is far lower. This simple trick shapes negotiations, salary expectations, and everyday spending without you noticing. Anchoring works because System 1 grabs the first number it sees, and System 2 is too sluggish to adjust properly. Even experts fall for this. Judges give higher sentences when exposed to random numbers. Shoppers believe discounts are meaningful when they aren't. Kahneman's point is clear. The first figure you encounter is never neutral. It's a psychological weapon. Another powerful bias is availability. System 1 trusts whatever information comes to mind easily. If you recently heard about a plane crash, flying feels dangerous, even though statistics never changed. If a friend warns you about a bad neighborhood, you treat it as truth. The brain confuses vividness with probability, making rare events feel common, and common events fade away. Kahneman shows how availability shapes fear, politics, health choices, and even relationships. You overestimate dangers the media repeats. You underestimate risks you've never seen. System 2 could correct this, but it rarely does. Effortless impressions feel more real than analytical reasoning. The mind chooses ease over accuracy almost every time. Loss aversion is another cornerstone of the book. Humans hate losing far more than they enjoy winning. Losing $20 hurts more than gaining $20 feels good. This leads to risk avoidance, stubborn decisions, and emotional reactions in situations that require clarity. Kahneman reveals that much of life's stress comes from protecting what you have rather than pursuing what you want. Loss aversion explains why you hold failing investments, avoid difficult conversations, cling to old habits, and feel pain when outcomes shift against you. System 1 treats losses as threats, triggering fear. System 2 tries to stay rational but often collapses under emotion. Kahneman argues that mastering this bias alone can radically improve financial and personal choices. Before we continue, a quick note. If you enjoy breaking down the psychology behind everyday decisions, tap subscribe to join us here at Atomic Books. Small insights, big impact. That's our promise. Another key idea is the halo effect. When System 1 likes one trait about a person or product, it assumes everything else must also be good. A friendly face feels trustworthy. A confident speaker seems more knowledgeable. A luxury brand seems more reliable. Kahneman warns that this shortcut blinds us to the actual facts beneath surface impressions. This bias matters because it shapes hiring decisions, friendships, reviews, and your sense of who deserves admiration. When one positive trait dominates judgment, you lose the ability to see complexity. Kahneman encourages slowing down, asking specific questions, and separating traits so System 2 has space to work. Confirmation bias anchors deeply into this system. Once System 1 decides something feels true, System 2 hunts for evidence to support it. You remember details that match your beliefs and ignore what contradicts them. Kahneman shows how this creates echo chambers inside your own mind long before it appears online. This is a good moment to ask you something directly. Which bias hits you the hardest? Anchoring, availability, or loss aversion? Drop your answer in the comments and like the video if you've caught yourself falling for one. Sharing your experience helps others recognize their own blind spots. Kahneman adds that illusions of understanding may be the most dangerous bias. System 1 builds simple stories from complex events, making you believe you knew what would happen all along. This hindsight bias appears after breakups, stock changes, accidents, and historical events. The truth is, your brain edits memories to preserve a feeling of coherence. Hindsight bias fuels overconfidence. You think you can predict outcomes because past events now look obvious. This encourages risky decisions, fragile plans, and misplaced certainty. Kahneman's research shows that the future is always more unpredictable than the mind admits, and humility is one of the most powerful tools in decision-making. The book also exposes how illusions of validity mislead professionals. Experts often trust their intuition, despite evidence showing their predictions are no better than chance. System 1 creates confidence. System 2 rarely challenges it. Kahneman's studies on stock traders revealed that many outperform or underperform purely by luck, not skill. To fight these illusions, Kahneman recommends embracing what he calls disciplined thinking. This means using checklists, questioning first impressions, examining base rates, and seeking disconfirming evidence. These strategies activate System 2, protecting you from automatic errors. Clear thinking begins with slowing down, even when System 1 begs for speed. One of the book's most practical ideas is the planning fallacy. Humans underestimate time, cost, and difficulty, even when they know similar tasks took longer before. System 1 imagines smooth progress. System 2 knows reality is messy but rarely pushes back. Kahneman suggests using historical averages rather than optimism when planning anything meaningful. The planning fallacy shapes projects, relationships, finances, and personal development. You expect progress to follow a perfect curve, yet real life bends, stalls, and surprises. Kahneman argues that treating setbacks as normal rather than failures reduces stress and leads to more sustainable habits. Success is less about perfection and more about adjustment. Kahneman also explains how framing effects steer your reactions. The same outcome feels different depending on how it's presented. A 90% survival rate feels reassuring. A 10% mortality rate feels frightening. System 1 responds to emotion, not logic. Understanding framing helps you resist persuasion and communicate more clearly with others. These insights lead to a central lesson. The mind is not built for accuracy. It is built for speed. System 1 loves shortcuts, emotions, patterns, and stories. System 2 is capable of reason but must be intentionally activated. Kahneman doesn't promise perfect judgment, only better awareness. Awareness itself changes everything. By recognizing your biases, you create space for wiser decisions. You become more patient in conflict, more cautious with money, more humble in arguments, and more reflective in moments of stress. Kahneman's work isn't about becoming emotionless, it's about becoming conscious. Real power comes from noticing the invisible forces shaping your mind. If there's one takeaway from thinking fast and slow, it's this. Small shifts in awareness create big shifts in life. And that is the heart of Atomic Books, transforming your world through tiny, powerful insights. If you found value here, subscribe to Atomic Books for more ideas that sharpen your thinking, steady your emotions, and guide your decisions toward clarity.